Dubai Works, where we interview the business leaders making a difference in this great city.
That business with scalability was very interesting to me.
I like building something that has legacy.
The advertising world is a mix of commerce and creativity, and it's the perfect manifestation of it. I used to work in the advertising industry, still do in a way, with our media business, and I always wondered how many professionals work in each city, but I'm sure it's a lot. There's so many different aspects of creative and advertising production world in Dubai. So this week and today we're doing a special episode as Smashing are media partners of the Dubai Lynx Festival of Creativity, which is also linked to the Cannes line, and there's big awards, there's an event in Madinat Jumeirah. So it's a 3-in-1. We interview 3 CEOs from the event. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Welcome back to another episode of Dubai Works Business Podcast. This week we're at a special at Dubai Lynx, and we're with the CEO of the Lions, which is Simon Cook. Welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, and it's great to be here. There's lots of bubbly atmosphere around the Festival of Creativity. We'd expect nothing less. So can you tell us a little bit more about Lions and Cannes Lion in particular?
Of course, yeah. Well, I guess it all starts with Cannes Lions, which is the International Festival of Creativity. And that's been running for 70 years this year. It's actually our 70th edition in 2023. And that's important for the industry because it offers a space for the entire global industry to come together to celebrate the very best creative work in the world, but also to network, to do business, and also to build their own businesses as well off the back of it. And so the way that links to here is obviously that's good on a global level, but on a regional level, it's so important that we do something in a nuanced, in a very specific way here for this very special region.
And so Dubai Lynx, as it is for this region, what does that mean to you as a group?
Oh, it's incredibly important. It gives us an opportunity here to meet with the local community. Most importantly, at the heart of this festival you see here today is an award or a benchmark. And that allows us to hold up the very best creative in the region, which is obviously good for the agencies, the brands, and really showcases what the region has to offer.
And of course, there's many award winners at here that go on to win in Cannes each year, and there's a lot of history of creativity in the region. How do you think that merits with the rest of the world? Is it unique? Does it match up to the talent elsewhere?
Absolutely. Lynx is great because it's a bit of a first look at what's coming through on the region, and then quite often that translates to the global stage at Cannes Lions as well. But it's been fantastic this week to see the new work coming through, and looking forward to the awards later this week to see that entire showcase.
Amazing. Well, thank you for your time. I know you're busy over these couple of days. I really appreciate your time when we're enjoying the festival.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Here we are now with Vidya Manmohan. She is the founder and chief creative officer at V for Good. I can guess where the V comes from, but I'll ask her anyway. V for Good is an in-the-row creative consortium born out of the pandemic. They focus on marketing and advertising services and they're based in Dubai. So, good morning.
Thank you very much, Richard.
And thanks for joining the show, Vidya. So, tell us a little bit about V for Good.
Like you guessed, the V came from my name. But no, I think it's almost, we wanted to set up something where I know might sound a bit cliched, but for women to thrive in the industry, because as you see, I mean, I've been in the industry and, going up the ranks and going through kind of all realms of the creative field across 25 years of my career. And I really understand and I value how much of effort and how much of passion it takes for women to actually, consistently be part of the industry. And you often see that, in universities, there are all these girls in advertising schools and in marketing degrees, and you just don't see them after that. Or they are in the preliminary roles and then you see them fade out. And I think life kind of takes them washes them away. And I found that it is really, really important to have all sides of the, if you say the audience actually being a part of the industry, then, and if we do have to cater to them. So We For Good is set up. So the V actually stands for we as together. So again, it's about supporting talented women across the globe. To work with women and women-owned companies or agencies or suppliers. And this is how we've been thriving, and it's been over 2.5 years. And I must say, we've actually been creating an agency or network of our own, where I think I've kind of unlearned everything I've learned, and we're trying to find new ways of just making sure everyone's happy in the process. And we do it all by our own terms. But we've been absolutely agile in the process. And I just heard someone talk about it on the main stage that, agencies really have to learn how to deliver and not take the 3-month, 6-month time. I don't think anyone does that anymore. But again, the agility, and because you have to have a conversation now. If you have it 2 days later, it's stale and there's no point, right? So how do we actually deliver when the time is right?
Yeah.
And because of this kind of an agile setup, and because of all the women that we work with being so passionate about being a part of it, I think we've really been, we've had some amazing, happy clients who've been with us throughout the process. And I think one great thing that, again, I'm not boasting about myself or the company or the women who work with us, but, the fact that we've not gone and pitched ourselves to a single person or client till now, and they've actually found us because, again, I believe everyone has their piece of pie, and we should not be chasing, something we cannot sustain. So we've been doing it at our pace, at our, keeping ourselves comfortable, and I think everyone's been happy so far.
Amazing. So it's a women-led, obviously, but it's a female advertising agency.
Yeah.
So only females work with you in your network as an employees?
No, I must correct that. So it's not that we only take women.
Yeah.
Whoever is passionate and have that fire in them and would love to be a part of the network, yes.
But a network in the sense of they're under the V for Good umbrella. When you're working with clients, they're the ones that do the work, not as in a network.
No.
As in they're heads of other agencies that you represent.
No.
Okay.
They're women. For example, I obviously won't disclose names. There's an amazing talent who couldn't be, who couldn't work with a normal agency kind of lifestyle or cope with it. And unfortunately, she had to get treatment for, cancer, and she had to go off the grid. But then she couldn't come back and put in those kind of working hours or that kind of lifestyle. But she still had the passion for doing work. She's part of the network. Or, there's another mom who's just delivered a baby and she's breastfeeding. She's part of the network. I mean, we call ourselves a network because it is kind of like an underground network that we operate.
Yeah.
But everyone is part of the network, is absolutely happy being part of it because they can work the way they want. We don't have to show their faces all their time to anyone. And, we do have contracts that we sign with all of them. And
Okay, amazing.
So,
and so the services that you offer in general are?
All 360 marketing, from strategy, from brand building to content, to films, to, you name it. It's,
Okay.
I mean, the biggest brand that we work for currently is Lego, the toy brand. And we started off with a very small Ramadan campaign for the region, produced for Lego. That was the first time that Lego ever produced local content. And, thanks to Ula and Zilla taking, confidence in us, they gave us the project. And ever since, and that was 3 years ago for Ramadan, and ever since we've been doing all their Ramadan campaigns and bigger campaigns, and we've also been doing international work for other Lego offices around the world.
Okay, so if Lego, are you Lego's agency of record on the creative side?
Nope.
But you do project work in this region, and they worked with you because you can offer a unique piece of work and a perspective on the region.
Yes.
For that project. And your background, was it in agency, or how did you get into the advertising world originally?
That's a long story. So I actually did physics, chemistry, bio, and math because I was planning to go for medicine, so med school, and for some strange change of luck or fate, I happened to stumble upon a very good advertising school in Bangalore in India. And for the first time I left. I mean, I was born and raised in Dubai. So that was the first time I actually went to India. Did 5 years of advertising. And I didn't know anything about advertising. I was just good at drawing, right? So this is another myth. So again, one of my aunts, because I used to do oil paintings and acrylic, she was like, "You're so good at this." And that was just my hobby. And she was like, "You should probably try out this university. It's amazing." And I just fell in love with the university campus. It was beautiful. You could just sit around and sketch anywhere. I didn't even know what I was getting into, And then eventually, 5 years later, I graduated in commercial art, got out, and I was looking for agencies. And because every 6 months we have to come back to Dubai to renew your residency, I was here. I couldn't work in India, which I would have loved to. But I think the first agency that got me on board, in probably because of my passion, because I didn't have a portfolio to show them. I had no work except, student work that you did in uni. And my then boss, Jeremy, who was one of the founders of Partnership, he was like, "Would you like to join tomorrow?" And I was like, "Is he kidding me? Is this really happening?" And that was this was the start. And I joined as a visualizer. Back in the days, we had all these, you have to really go up the different ways of, you don't just start as a certain thing. So visualizer, I think in my first month, I won an award, which was like Nostradamus of the 21st century or something. Which is, again, I didn't even know what I was worth or what I could do in the industry. And I won that award. And I think from there on, again, I moved from being an art director, like eight years in. And then one of the other partners, John Money, he took me on the side and said, "Vidya, you're so good with ideas. You're like churn out ideas. I think you should try your hand at copywriting." And I think that was a great switch for me. And I'm super eternally grateful to him for putting me to this side of the creative realm. And I think I really grew from there, from going from being a copywriter to being senior copywriter, and then assistant art director and CD and so on. And I think, again, I was always shy, very, was never vocal about my ideas. I would always try to find someone else to convey my idea. Because again, it was a man's world, right? And it can be really, really intimidating. But I think it was my passion for the work that I do that actually got me through. And then I didn't think of where I am and what I'm doing. And it was all about, what does the work take? Let's pitch it, whether it's working late at night, whether it's working over weekends, whether it's not seeing my family for days together. I think we put it all, and I didn't think of it as, again, I was married and I had a child and all of this went through it, but I think it was fine because I still had the passion for it. And again, my then boss, when I was with Partnership, after childbirth, I was like, no, my passion just went down. I was like, no, I can't go back, because it was all about feeding the baby, taking care of the baby. And then my boss came home with his wife, and it was 3 months in, and he's like, "Vidya, what are you doing? What are you doing to yourself? I mean, you have so much in you. You should just come back to work, even if it's just 2 hours a day." I mean, I'm sure he knew I don't do 2 hours a day. But obviously, I think and from then on, there was no looking back. And it's been a change, again, from Partnership I moved on. There were only 2 agencies that I really worked for. One was a Partnership for over 7 or 8 years. And then Grey, where I served for almost 15 years.
Wow.
And
that's a good stint in the creative agency world.
Yeah, and I quit, I think, being the ECD for kind of the region where I was taking care of the creative work that comes out of Qatar, Beirut, Saudi, and UAE, which was amazing. I mean, it was a brilliant, great experience.
Yeah.
And yeah, COVID hit. And again, one of the reasons for starting this off was, again, I didn't know how it would do. We had no planning. I didn't think of anything but, I wanted to set it up and say, if I ever do anything, I want to do it for a reason, as opposed to just doing it for, setting up an agency. So I think, I can't be asking for anything more. I'm really happy with the pace at which we're going or growing, and the pace at which we're creating a real change and a movement where it is not the usual agency lifestyle, or it's not the usual way agencies work, or is compensated. So we're making our own ways of doing it, as long as everyone in it are happy. And again, in a time where, the mental stress and all the mental health is of such a big importance, I think we've been doing fine in keeping the pressure where just about how much we can take it, and we talk about it amongst ourselves. There are days when some people can't be part of the work, and we take it out from them, and yeah, so far so good.
Amazing, great story. So, Vidya, I think in some parts of the world there's almost commitments, or not necessarily mandates, but for minority-owned agencies and even publishers, and in the US it might be black-owned media, or in other parts it might be female-owned, or it might be different minority-owned. Have you benefited from that? Do you see that people are willing to either by a KPI or a commitment that they're willing to work with a female-owned agency, or is it an advantage? Is it a commitment? Are we seeing anything like that in this region?
To be honest, Richard, we haven't played that card. And we don't pitch, because we don't want pity, and we don't want that kind of support that comes with, let's try and support them, because we want to be known for the work that we do, and we do it goddamn well. So you come to us if you want to get that kind of style of work done. And we don't want that extra kind of, we want to support women.
Yeah.
I don't think we need that kind of support. We just need the understanding of this is how we operate. And if you want to see the work that you want to see, like genuine work, because again, we believe we don't just do advertising or marketing if there's no purpose behind it. So we also choose the clients that we take in. So we don't take the usual way we think they're going to burn us out, or they're going to just ask for this and this, where we're not actually contributing to them either. So it's going to be a lose-lose situation for either of us. So we're also careful of that. And to your point, we haven't benefited from that. But
But I wonder, does it exist? Is there, that you know of, from a DEI point of view, are there things that global companies are looking at now in terms of who they work with and partners?
So I have heard that they do look for people like that, or companies like that, but I haven't been approached by any, because simply I think this is the first time I'm actually being vocal about it and saying this, because I also feel I want the women who are part of the network to feel like each one of us is contributing to it, and they're not invisible. And eventually someday I want their stories to come out and be told, and tell the industry stories of, real people in advertising, as opposed to the ones they actually see up on stage or at award functions, So this is why I'm really trying to come out and talk about it.
Okay, no, and appreciate it. But in your experience, from a creative talent point of view, are creatives difficult to work with? Have you found that? No, you're shaking your head.
Well, being a creative myself, I don't think creatives are hard to work with. In fact, they're the most amazing souls to work with. I think because I am a creative myself, I just know exactly how you can work with them without, messing around with their mental space. Because it's about giving them the space they want to work within, and leaving it up to them, and then it's up to you, and then keeping it transparent, and letting them know exactly what's happening. And I don't think creatives are the beast that they're made
out to be. And does that sort of help? Obviously you were sort of born out of the pandemic, and there might have been remote working, and you described being able, having flexible people in your network.
Yeah.
Is that a better way to work with creative people? Is that something that you think you'll continue to embrace now that we're sort of back to normal?
I think for now, yes, I do have permanent people on ground, but I think the entire 90% of the network is, and because I told you we work with amazing talent across the globe, and this is why we've been able to deliver that and get the best talent in. I don't think having physical people on ground and coming to an office and clocking 9 to 6 or whatever would actually help this network thrive. So at every point we're seeing how's it going, and do we need to change anything, so I think it's about being rewarded, feeling committed, and each one of us feeling responsible and being part of the network that matters to us than actually having people on ground. And
and it works for you, but do you need a different layer of management? Do you need project managers? How do you sort of manage remote workers, especially in the creative space?
So very interesting topic, because yes, it was born out of the pandemic. It was all remote, and during that time, I also did my master's in digital management out of Hyper Island, kind of known like the Harvard of digital, the digital world. And we learned a lot about prototyping and design thinking, and how do you create businesses that actually thrive. And I think this was one of the, and I think again I'm super grateful that luck brought all of this together, and I ended up using everything that I learned in my master's into creating this company or agency, right? So we're actually in the process of prototyping something that will help agencies work remotely in a very comfortable way. Having said that, we do have brand managers and people taking care of accounts, but it's not the kind of agency type, because everyone takes care of their own, we literally have creatives running the show through and through. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So that's interesting. It's interesting to see how that will unfold. And I think we almost need examples like your company to see how this can work, because people are always trying to figure it out. I want to ask you a little bit about the region, because you have a lot of experience in working in different markets. What is it like being a creative across the Gulf and the wider MENA region? What are the things that you need to consider, and how much do you need to understand behavior types and cultures, etc. in the work?
Again, I think I'll have to talk for hours, because the region, as much as we call it the region, right? And also working for the region is a challenge in itself, because Dubai, UAE, and every emirate within the UAE is so different. The culture is so different. The ask is very different. And so is Qatar, and so is Saudi Arabia, and so is Beirut, with all the challenges that's going on. So I think the thing that we do usually wrong is put everything under the MENA region, and we also toss in North Africa into it. And this is where the challenge arises. So I think understanding the culture and nuances of every region, and when a brief comes in, and working with clients to actually tap into that. I don't think we can deliver one campaign across the region and make it work successfully across every single country, unless it's tweaked and catered to individually for every country. And again, that requires a lot of tools, a lot of understanding, a lot of agility to work with teams in each of those regions. So this is what allows us the flexibility. So, we rolled out a campaign for Lego, which went across 3 major markets like Malaysia and Mexico and Africa and the Middle East, like very diverse.
Yeah.
But what helped us was, you know, working with teams on ground in those regions and then feeding us live while we worked to make these campaigns possible in real time. And everything was rolled out in like 4 months, between 4 to 6 months, and it's massive. It's a massive, you know, product campaign. So I think this is only possible if you have links in all of these markets and you work in real time to make this happen.
Yeah, you need that network.
You can't set up offices everywhere around the world.
Yeah, makes sense. Interesting. If we were having this conversation 10 years ago, Vidya, I would be asking you about math men and mad men, but now the trend seems to be asked about AI. So how do you see, like, you know, creative work with technology and the evolution of technology and trends?
Yeah. This is something I would be talking about later today, but I think, and we have a big problem with talent retention, right? In big agencies. Not with us. So the thing is, before, when you look into talent, it's usually how good are you with your writing skills, or we look at their portfolio, or we look at the art direction. But with OpenAI coming in, you don't need the skill that a writer used to have then, or you don't need the art direction skills that the art directors used to have then. You need people to polish them or whatever else, or to improvise on them. But I think the skills that we need problem solvers. We need people who can understand and absorb and really adapt to how they can, you know, come up with solutions. We need design thinkers. We need people who can prototype an idea. And so when you present it to the client, you actually know exactly what can go wrong at every single stage. So these are the kind of breed of creatives that we need for the coming years, or I think even for now, to make that change. So maybe we're looking in the wrong places.
Yeah.
And we're kind of creating the same profile and looking for them in the same way. Maybe we need to change the way we look for these people.
But you still think that the creative work will come through, and there still is a need for that service industry around creativity?
Absolutely. Creativity will never die. I think it's going to move from just being stuck with advertising agencies, with these creatives being a part and center, a core of every other business or offering, because we need these creative thinkers. We need these, you know, out-of-the-box thinkers or problem solvers in every single industry. And there is a dearth for that. So we need to get out there and make that change.
Yeah. Obviously, media consumption continues to evolve and change. How do you think the role of this sort of the cliched big idea plays now in marketing and branding across, you know, changing consumption habits?
So I am still a believer of having a big idea or a core idea behind anything, because if there is no problem that you're solving, I don't think you should be doing any work.
Yeah.
Because, you know, sometimes you see just fluff coming out and like, that's the brand. And, you know, you slap you think smart tagline to it and you think it's going to make the brand. I think people are way smarter. Really, can anyone, you know, talk us through something like that? People are looking for something they can own and be a part of, right? And they want their life to be shaped by the products they use or how they use it. So we have to be smarter than using media in a way where you're just pushing it out to people, where it's senseless. So you'll have media reaching people, but are people actually consuming it is the question. So it shouldn't be that, it's reached 100 million or whatever, you know, making those tall numbers make sense for you. It should be how many of these people have changed or converted or changed behavior. And that's what we should be learning about.
Okay. And you know, coming to, you know, it's still the start of the year 2023. People are still sort of figuring out what does this decade have in store. It started off with the pandemic. What's your sort of outlook in terms of you know, the world that we're living in today? Is it an optimistic one? Are you positive about the future?
So, Richard, I'm a diehard optimist. I think, and also because, I have a daughter. I want a better world for her.
Yeah.
I think I honestly feel you can't live being a pessimist, because you're like just gonna carve out a real sad world for you. I wake up every day wanting to do something new and to make a difference. I mean, whatever it is. And I think as good creatives, we always love to have a problem or an issue where you can solve and try and get the world out of it. So I think whether it's a pandemic, whether it's AI, whether it's everything, like, you know, kind of you feeling strangled, I think we'd love to come out of it with like brilliant solutions where, you know, you can always have solutions to whatever. So I think none of these will be a challenge. I am super, super positive about the world. And I think we all have a lot to look forward to. It might not be the old ways of how we lived, but let's embrace it and let's make it happen.
Amazing. Brilliant note to finish on. Vidya, thanks very much for your time today, and we'll follow you for good future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now we're here with Daniel Hulme. He is the Chief Executive Officer, CEO at Satalia, but he's also the Chief AI Officer at WPP, which is a really interesting role that I want to ask about. But basically, Satalia are an award-winning company that provides AI innovations for global brands. They're based in the UK. Welcome to Dubai, Daniel.
Thank you very much.
Dubai Lynx. So tell us a little bit more about Satalia.
Yeah, my entire academic background is in artificial intelligence over the past 20 years, and I spent out Satalia for my PhD 15 years ago. We build AI solutions for some of the biggest companies in the world, and we were about 120 people before we were acquired by WPP about 18 months ago. We continue to grow Satalia inside WPP, but as a Chief AI Officer for WPP, I'm also thinking about how we use these technologies for cool instead of creepy.
That's fascinating. So first of all, to build something out of a PhD, was that something you had in mind? And if you were studying AI 15, 20 years ago and more, that's quite forward thinking. Yeah,
my PhD actually originally was to model the brain of a bumblebee. Bumblebees have 1 million brain cells. Their brains can fit on the end of a needle. And bumblebees can do amazing things. They navigate 3D worlds. They talk to each other. They solve problems. They don't handle windows very well, but ultimately they're very smart creatures. And the question was, can you model a brain in a machine? 18 years ago, it was impossible to model 1 million neurons. About 12 years ago, there was a new paradigm in this technology now called deep learning that allows us to model hundreds of millions of neurons, and we can teach these brains to do things that humans can do, which is why AI has suddenly got very exciting. But my company bridges two fields in academia. The first is machine learning, so finding patterns from data, and the second is decision making. You need to really combine both of these technologies to get the true power of AI.
And was it a technology company or was it a services company?
It was born as a technology company, but like a lot of startups from universities, it was very early. It's still early now. I still believe that there's a place in the world for AI as a service. But actually, we made most of our money through services, building innovations for companies that we then could repurpose. So I guess you would call us an asset-enabled consultancy.
Okay, interesting. And 120 people is a lot in this space because, for most people, AI is only really coming of age now and, recently. But so what were those people doing for the last decade or so?
We were using algorithms to make the operations of organizations more efficient. So, for example, Tesco is one of the biggest retailers in the UK. We built all of their infrastructure to do last mile delivery. Now that sounds relatively boring, but actually the algorithms required to optimize vehicles, to allocate, to predict how long it's going to take to deliver to people's houses, etc., are phenomenally complicated. And if you can save Tesco a few seconds on each delivery, it translates to tens of millions of pounds. Another example is PwC, the big audit firm, is a client of ours. They have 5,000 auditors they need to allocate to work in the UK. You need to use machine learning to understand people's skills, their preferences. You need to use machine learning to understand the demand. And then you need to use algorithms to allocate people to that demand. And maybe just give you some maths. If I've got 5 people to allocate to 5 projects, there are 120 possible ways to allocate 5 people to 5 projects. 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. If I've got 15 people to allocate to 15 projects, I now have 1 trillion ways. If I've got 60 people to allocate to 60 projects, there are now more ways than there are atoms in the universe. These problems get ugly very, very quickly. Human beings tend to solve them. Actually, you need to build algorithms to solve them incredibly efficiently.
That's amazing. So the roles, the people, when I hear of tech companies, like we have a super app in the region called Kareem that Uber acquired, and we know that they hire people to manage a lot of that data, like data scientists. Is that what you were employing?
Yes and no. So I would argue that companies over the past 5 years have been hiring data scientists to solve decision problems, and it's the wrong set of skills. So decision problems are some allocation of resource, like I've just mentioned, routing vehicles, allocating people to jobs, figuring out what channels to put your marketing money down. These are decision problems, and actually it's a completely different set of skills to machine learning, to data science. Data scientists are very good at finding patterns, finding insights from data. But the assumption is by extracting insights from data and giving those insights to human beings, they're able to make better decisions, and they can't. So actually, for 4 years, I ran a master's program in UCL in applied AI, where I trained hundreds of students, hundreds of master's students every year in data science. As I said, those students have gone out there employed by industry, and the industry don't understand they have optimization problems, they don't have data science problems. And I think that over the next 5 years, they're going to wake up and realize they've been hiring the wrong people to solve the wrong problems.
And what people should they be hiring?
Optimization experts. So they used to be called operations researchers 20 years ago. Everybody got excited about machine learning because of these new advances. But operations researchers or discrete mathematicians or optimization experts, they're typically found in the Germanic countries, in Australia, in Brazil. There's still a few pockets around the world where universities have invested still into those technologies. I would always advocate companies need to solve their decision problem first before even thinking about hiring data scientists.
Fascinating. And, when you were describing that sort of the work that you did with Tesco, I was thinking of like Emirates Airline, and when you did that analogy of the multiples of resources. And so did they know that they were managing 30 or 60,000 people, their resources in that way? Were they calling it AI over the last decade?
So not really. I think that unfortunately, almost any new advances in our algorithms are being referred to as AI. And one of the things I'll talk about today here at Dubai Lynx is helping people understand what AI is and isn't. Actually, lots of different things have coalesced over the past decade: data, cloud computing, new advances in algorithms that allow us to do really interesting things in industry. So anything that really touches data now that's algorithmic, they call AI, which I think is silly. But yes, in summary, what those algorithms are decision-making algorithms or AI algorithms.
Okay, and Daniel, what's it like working under WPP? Well, first of all, what was the acquisition like, and was that something that you thought Satalia might end up in?
I actually wasn't in the market to be acquired. We'd been working with Wunderman Thompson, a WPP agency, for some years on combining our logistics solutions with e-commerce for companies like DFS, which is a big furniture company in the UK. And we were looking at actually raising some capital, first time to raise some capital into some of these assets that we had built. Actually, VCs didn't really understand our business model, but then a handful of companies were interested in buying us. There are lots of synergies with WPP. Not only do we augment our logistics capability with e-commerce, we're WPP's deep mine, so we're now advancing generative AI inside WPP. We take AI to their clients, and of course WPP is 120,000 people that we can allocate more effectively using artificial intelligence algorithms. So there's lots of synergies with regards to working with WPP, and it's been a fantastic journey so far. I love working there.
That's amazing. I also used to work with WPP in the Group M sort of media agency space, but I know how big it is, and a chief AI officer to go across that group must be very demanding. Or how do you do that as well as running the company?
It is. Fortunately, WPP have been incredibly embracing of my role, so many people come to me across the group to ask my advice and guidance. There are thousands of people capable of developing AI across the group, and actually one of my biggest challenges, as you say, is to map that capability and figure out how to steer WPP to using these technologies to advance the organization. But it's a phenomenal resource to tap into, and it's an interesting challenge to coordinate it.
Are they more focused now, Daniel, on, as you said, coordinating their own resources rather than doing what you're doing and offering it to their clients?
Actually, we're doing resource allocation for clients as well. So anybody that's got a sizable marketing team, what we actually do is we create a digital representation of a marketer. So use their digital footprint to essentially create a digital twin of that person, and then we can interrogate that twin and say, if you work on this project, will you thrive in your career? If you work in this team, will you work well with this team? So we're actually applying our skills to marketing teams, both inside WPP and outside. We're, as I said, advancing generative AI technologies. Group M is obviously a great example of multi-channel buying and how you then push media across those channels to maximize your goals, which is a classic optimization problem. So there are lots and lots of areas that we can apply these technologies to improve WPP.
Interesting. And do you work independently? I.e., do you pitch for business as a standalone entity, or are you part of the, if one of WPP's media agencies or creative agencies are up for a global pitch, will you in to win the pitch?
Exactly, both. So we win work ourselves through helping companies build AI innovations. We win work through the opcos, so standing side by side with them. So both.
So both. And what's your view of the region? Have you had any briefs that you've worked on in this region, and is it your first time here?
So I historically came to Dubai quite a lot, but I did a talk recently at Leap in Saudi.
Oh, yeah.
And that actually generated quite a lot of interest for the region. So it feels like the region really wants to start to invest in these technologies. I think that they're looking towards the West because of their talent and capability and all of the learnings over the past 5 years of where companies got it right and got it wrong. So I think that what I want to do is leverage that knowledge from the West and bring it here.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast with an American author who wrote a book in the early 90s, and he's credited with coining the term the metaverse. And when he in the podcast, he mentioned the date that Mark Zuckerberg changed the name of his company, and he said for the following year, all he's been doing is interviews, right? So he said, before he writes his next book, he's just been so in demand, right? And it feels like there's a bit of that in AI at the moment. Do you have a lot of requests? Because it's a hot topic.
Yeah, I think that the metaverse, unfortunately, had a huge amount of hype, and we're quite some time away from realizing it, because you need to set up all of the infrastructure, make it accessible for everybody to really leverage the power of the metaverse. AI is completely different. You can leverage the power of AI tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so I don't believe that these technologies are going away. I think there's a lot of hype around them, or a lot of at least misunderstanding about how you apply these technologies to solving problems in business. But those companies that get it right are the ones that are going to totally thrive. They say that this is going to be the year of AI, but I think what we'll find over the next several years, more and more exponential advances in technologies like ChatGPT that's really going to surprise people.
And what are the misinterpretations or the misunderstandings? What are the blatant things that people are just not figuring out?
So the popular definition of AI is getting computers to do things that humans can do. Humans are bounded by our intelligence. We can find patterns in about 4 dimensions. We can solve problems without seven moving parts or 7 people allocating people to jobs. Computers can find patterns in thousands of dimensions. They can solve problems with thousands of moving parts. Benchmarking machines against humans is a very, very, very silly thing to do. The reason why we've got excited about this is because over the past decade, we've managed to get machines to do things that humans can do: recognize objects and images, correspond in natural language. And when we get machines to do things that humans can do, then we assume that that's intelligence, because humans are the most intelligent thing we know in the universe. I would argue humans are not intelligent. We've been building machines that are significantly more intelligent than human beings for 50, 60 years. There's actually a much better definition of AI, which comes from a definition of intelligence. So it's goal-directed adaptive behavior. Goal-directed in the sense you're trying to achieve an objective. You're trying to spend your median money to maximize yield. You're trying to route your vehicles to maximize deliveries. Behavior is how quickly you can answer that question. And if you choose the wrong algorithm, it will take gazillions of years. If you choose the right algorithm, it'll take milliseconds. So choosing the right algorithm to answer your goal is critically important. But the key word is adaptive. Goal-directed adaptive behavior. What you want to do is build systems that can make decisions, learn from them, and adapt themselves so that next time they make better decisions. And again, if I was being brutally honest, you don't really see adaptive systems in production. So even to that definition, nobody's really doing AI. That's why I like to use these 6 categories that I've been developing over the past several years to look at AI, not through definitions, but through the applications that have emerged over the past decade.
And what are the categories?
The categories are basic task automation. So the task automation is often the AI community turn their nose up to it, but you can use very, very simple algorithms to essentially replace a large amount of tasks that humans that do, whether it be clicking on websites or reading documents. You can use very simple algorithms to replace that human being and actually save a lot of money in an organization. So that's the first category. The second category is generative AI. So you can use tools to augment creativity through text, through video, through images, etc. So creating content very, very quickly, augmenting the creative process. The third category is the humanization of AI. And what I mean by that is replacing the human that's the interface with something that looks and behaves very, very similar to a human being. And actually, by the way, these categories...
A robot.
Well, yeah, it could be a robot, could be an avatar, but these different categories raise different ethical questions, social questions, safety, governance questions. The fourth category is, I guess, extracting complex insights from data. That's machine learning. That's what everybody's excited about, and I would argue is misinvestment. So we can get AI, machine learning to extract insights about the world, explain how the world works so that we can then make better decisions. It turns out humans don't make better decisions. The fifth category is complex decision making. So going back to this concept of optimization that matured in academia several years ago. And the final category is the augmentation of your physical self with exoskeletons, with robotics, with cybernetics, or your digital self with your digital twin in the metaverse. So those actually are I think the 6 categories of applications of AI, and as I said, each one raised different ethical, social, safety questions.
It just shows the depth of it. It's like 6 industries, separate industries.
Indeed.
You know?
Yeah, and I guess at the moment there's a lot of hype around one of them, generative AI, but the reality is that those are building blocks. And if you can combine them in the right way, you can really move the needle for organizations.
It's fascinating. So going back to the WPP part, because we are at a creative advertising industry, it sounds like even the work that you're doing there is a lot more to do with infrastructure and resource management and things like that, not necessarily the creative part.
Yeah, no, sorry, so it's not true. So I guess there were 5 reasons for the acquisition.
Yeah.
The first reason was to augment our logistics capability, our supply chain capability with Wunderman Thompson, who do e-commerce and websites and all that kind of stuff, digital transformation. The second was workforce optimization, so solving workforce allocation inside WPP. Turns out we can also take that to clients. The third category was building new technologies and tools to enable WPP to operate more effectively using generative AI, using optimization algorithms. So the fourth category is taking AI to clients, so working with the opcos and augmenting what AKQA build apps for clients, so we can then introduce and interject AI into those apps. And the fifth category really is, as Chief AI Officer, I've got to think about the position and policies that hold WPP accountable to using these technologies, but can also hold our partners and clients and even brands accountable to making sure that we're using these technologies for good.
Fascinating. And on that last category, where are they? Is it part of their governance already? Is it part of the, in WPP, all those 120,000 employees have to do an annual governance, and I forget what it's called, but it's, but is AI and the things that, the questions it poses around ethics, around decision making, around ownership and many things, is that part of, have they figured out?
It's extremely difficult to do with 120,000 people, as you can imagine, but the reason why I joined WPP is the aspiration, the intent of the leadership across WPP is to use these technologies for good. Of course, these technologies can understand people's behaviors, understand their biases, etc. And in some respects, marketing can exploit those behaviors and biases. But what I've seen and been exposed to across WPP is they think very, very carefully about using these technologies. They think very, very ethically, and actually what they should be doing is taking those frameworks and thinking and amplifying and making sure that the rest of the world adhere to them.
Used well, do you think AI could be a catalyst to sort of entities like WPP re-emerging in terms of, bluntly, like market capital and the value of what an organization that size can be? Is AI the most exciting thing that's come about for them?
Well, I think that it will absolutely augment the creative process. It's going to accelerate the production, the activation of content is going to aid creatives to come up with new ideas in ways that we've never been able to do before. If you look at the recent earnings report from Mark Reed, it's quoted in the media that AI is absolutely fundamental to the future of WPP.
But has he actually been able to allocate? Has he been able to say that it's contributing already to revenues?
Well, I can say we are because Satalia has been building and contributing to those revenues, and
wow.
I guess very hats off to the leadership. We were acquired 18 months ago, and you can imagine that process was started several years before. So they've been thinking about this for a very long time.
A long time, amazing. Do you think you would have got a better price if you sold today?
Maybe. It was a very, very healthy acquisition. It was a very fair acquisition. And I guess I have a platform now to really make a bigger impact, and that's what I'm passionate about.
And of course, in terms of M&A, WPP have decades of experience of bringing different types of organizations together and allowing them run with their same brand, etc. And you mentioned AKQA, 10 years ago, that was the big acquisition, and that was the leading edge of digital innovation. And now there's an AI version of that, so it's they've got precedent for this, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and its complexity is a double-edged sword. Complexity is sometimes a little bit confusing for brands, customers to understand what we offer. But the fact is that we have a huge plethora of offerings that augment and interact and complement each other. And I think that WPP is going through a process of simplification to make sure that message does land, but at the same time making sure that we can deliver bleeding-edge solutions to our clients.
Yeah. Brilliant. Going back, I know I'm jumping around, going back a little bit on the governance and the regulation part of AI. Elon Musk spoke at the World Government Summit in Dubai a month ago, and he mentioned the dangers of this, as he does. Do you think that certain countries and certain regions can get a foothold of this in terms of regulation? They can go faster than others, and do you see that happening?
Yeah, right. I mean, countries without regulation, of course, can experiment and make mistakes. Whereas obviously companies with regulation have to be very, very careful. So yes, but at the same time, I think that talent wants to work with organizations that are using these technologies for good. And I think that we'll see that organizations that have a strong purpose will attract customers, will attract talent. And that means using these technologies to make the world better. And actually, I believe it's a collective purpose of all of these enterprises that will make the world better. I don't think that anybody knows what the future looks like. I think that you got the people out there saying that there's going to be no jobs. You've got people out there saying that it's all going to be fine. But I think that it's within our gift to make that future a reality.
Yeah, if someone says to you, if they meet you for the first time, if they say, "Oh, AI is going to take our jobs," what's your initial reaction?
Well, so I think that in the next decade, it's just going to see a Cambrian explosion of using these technologies for all sorts of creative things. I think that anybody that kind of predicts what the world's going to be like beyond 10 years doesn't know what they're talking about. But the point is that it's within our gift to create that world. It's within our gift to use these technologies to work with organizations that want to make the world better.
Fascinating. Could ask lots of questions on this, but I'm just conscious of the Dubai Works Business Podcast listeners are generally people who've set up a business in Dubai, and a lot of them will be entrepreneurs. They'll be so busy with their day-to-day business, they'll have heard of ChatGPT in the news, but they probably won't have done anything about it. What would your advice be to them in the year ahead? Do they allocate budget to it? Do they go do a course? Do they experiment? Do they do a stunt PR? Like, what should they do?
Yeah, I think play with it. And a bit like in the metaverse, I think that it would be unwise for any organization to go all in. But the metaverse will come. And AI is, in some respects, almost here. So I think that the understanding it and how it's going to impact your business, how it's going to impact the world, preparing you for that future is very important.
So experiment with it in terms of you allocate some time and resources.
Yeah.
The opportunity costs associated with that, but that's what they should do. Otherwise, they're going to get wiped out.
I think so. I think it depends on the size of the startup. I advise a lot of startups, and I think depend on the nature of your business. You sometimes just need to be razor focused and don't let this other stuff distract you. If you feel that these technologies might change the nature of your business over the next 3-4 years, then I think it's worthwhile playing with them, or at least surround yourself with advisors that can help you navigate that space.
Amazing. Like a big global services company, something like that.
Yeah.
And are you going to be spending time with some of their network agencies in the UAE when you're here?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. We're looking to grow our both our talent base and also our client base out here. So if anybody wants to reach out, connect with me.
Amazing. Brilliant listening to you. It's been really topical. We haven't had an AI expert on this year, so I'm glad we spoke to you.
Super. Thanks.
Thanks, Daniel. So that's the second time we've done a live podcast at an event that we've been media partnerships with Smashing in the last few weeks. First at Step and now at Lynx. And we thought to put three together. And I hope you enjoyed the episode. For the AI conversation, I found a lot of it that difficult to understand while interviewing. So maybe I'll have to listen back with a notepad. But there's a lot of value in there, hopefully. And it's a topic we'll be revisiting in the future, I'm sure. Thank you to our team on site who helped produce all our setup and all our interviews at Dubai Lynx, especially Richie, our videographer, and Shahir, our producer. Back in studio, Ali Khalil, who produce and edit all these episodes, and the content team as well, and also the marketing team, Rada Mahira, who helped put together the Smashy presence at Dubai Lynx. As usual, you can watch it on smashy.tv on the smart TV apps, or you can listen on any audio app. We will resume our normal frequency of one per week this Friday. So looking forward to having you back then.